Commander Vex 9 stood at the observation deck, his 6 arms crossed in what humans might mistake for contemplation, but was actually pure irritation. The newest batch of Academy recruits had arrived, and among them was, well, let's just say, the universe had decided to play a particularly cruel joke on the Galactic Defense Institute. "Sir," his aide, Lieutenant Crix, approached with the kind of nervous energy that usually preceded bad news. "The human has arrived." Vex 9's compound eyes rolled in separate directions. "Of course it has. Tell me, Crix, what fresh nightmare does this one bring? Does it breathe fire? Can it phase through solid matter? Or does it simply exist to make our lives miserable through sheer audacity?" "Actually, sir, this one seems normal." The word normal, when applied to humans, was like calling a supernova slightly warm. Vex 9 had been dealing with these creatures for 3 decades, ever since first contact had revealed that the galaxy's newest members were essentially walking disasters with opposable thumbs and an inexplicable fondness for explosive solutions to non-explosive problems. "Normal," Vex 9 repeated flatly. "Crix, the last normal human we had here somehow managed to turn our quantum physics laboratory into a dance club. The one before that taught our combat drones to play poker and bankrupted half the faculty. What exactly makes you think this Marcus fellow is any different?" Marcus Kane, age 22, from the 3rd planet of the Sol system, was currently being escorted through the Academy's main corridor by Sergeant Thrix, a 4-armed Keltarian who had seen enough human antics to develop what psychiatrists called species-specific anxiety disorder. "Just keep walking straight," Thrix muttered. "Don't touch anything, don't look at anything funny, and for the love of all that's sacred in 17 different pantheons, don't get any ideas." Marcus, a lanky young man with dark hair and the kind of innocent expression that had fooled exactly nobody in his entire life, nodded agreeably. "Sure thing, Sarge. Though I gotta ask, what's with all the warning signs? Do not feed the quantum entities? Authorized personnel only for time manipulation? Danger? Experimental gravity well? This place is like a cosmic OSHA violation waiting to happen." Thrix's eye twitched. In his native language, he muttered something that roughly translated to, "Why do the gods hate me specifically?" The grand auditorium of the Galactic Defense Institute was an impressive sight, designed to inspire awe and respect in new recruits. Crystalline walls reached toward a domed ceiling that displayed real-time images of distant galaxies, while holographic displays showed the Academy's proud history of training the galaxy's finest defenders. Marcus whistled appreciatively. "Nice place. Very shiny. The Academy has trained over 2 million cadets from 4,000 different species," announced Instructor Zal Prime, a towering being whose species had mastered interstellar travel, while humans were still figuring out fire. "Our methods have been refined over millennia to challenge and educate the most advanced minds in the galaxy." The other recruits, a collection of beings from across known space, listened with the appropriate reverence. There was Kiv, a gelatinous blobarian who absorbed knowledge through osmosis. Tor 3, a mechanical constructoid whose brain was literally a quantum computer. Yila, whose psychic abilities could solve complex equations by thinking really hard at them. And then there was Marcus, who was currently trying to figure out if the floating platforms they were standing on had safety railings. "Your first test," Zal Prime continued, producing what appeared to be a standard combination lock, though this one hummed with subtle energy, "is designed to evaluate your problem-solving capabilities, patience, and methodical approach to unknown challenges." The lock was a thing of beauty, really. Crafted by the finest engineers of Arcturus Prime, It incorporated 17 different layers of security, quantum-encrypted tumblers, and a fail-safe system that would take most species approximately 6 hours to crack through careful analysis and mathematical calculation. This lock represents the kind of complex puzzle you might encounter in the field, Zal Prime explained, setting it on a pedestal in the center of the room. It requires not just intelligence, but discipline, systematic thinking, and click. The lock opened. Zal Prime stared at it. The assembled recruits stared at it. Even the holographic displays seemed to pause in confusion. Marcus looked up from where he'd been standing, about 15 feet away from the lock. Did I break something? Because I wasn't even touching it. I was just looking at the numbers and thinking about you. Zal Prime's voice cracked slightly. What did you do? Nothing. I was just looking at it, and I noticed the wear patterns on the dials, and the way the metal was slightly discolored, where fingers usually grip, and I figured most people are right-handed, so they'd probably start with the rightmost dial. And then I thought about frequency analysis of the most common combinations and psychological tendencies in number selection, and... You solved it, Tor 3 stated, his mechanical voice somehow conveying disbelief. Without touching it, in 12 seconds. Was I not supposed to? Because honestly, it wasn't that hard. If you look at the manufacturing marks, you can see where the original settings were calibrated, and then you factor in the thermal expansion of the metal under these atmospheric conditions, carry the two, and... Marcus trailed off as every being in the room continued to stare at him. I'm in trouble, aren't I? From the observation deck, Commander Vex 9 watched the scene unfold with the kind of weary resignation usually reserved for natural disasters. Crix. Yes, sir? Cancel my vacation plans. Sir? This one's going to be special. I can feel it in my tertiary nervous system. Back in the auditorium, Instructor Zal Prime was having what could generously be called a pedagogical crisis. The lock that was supposed to take 6 hours to solve was sitting open on its pedestal like it was mocking him. The other recruits were looking between Marcus and the lock with expressions ranging from awe to mild terror. Perhaps, Zal Prime said carefully, there was a malfunction in the locking mechanism. Oh no, Marcus said helpfully. It was working fine. See, if you look at the scratches on the third dial, you can tell someone's been using 741 as a test combination, probably during manufacturing quality control. And then you've got the classic offset pattern that indicates the final combination was set by someone with standard humanoid finger spacing, which narrows it down to about 47 species. But then you factor in the cultural significance of certain number patterns. Stop. Zal Prime held up one clawed hand. Just stop talking. Hiv, the gelatinous recruit, burbled something that might have been laughter. Human explains things like breathing. Automatic process, yes? Look, I'm sorry if I messed up your test, Marcus continued, clearly not understanding when to quit while he was ahead. Maybe you've got another one. Something trickier? I promise I'll think about it longer next time. Zal Prime's species didn't have blood pressure, but if they did, his would have been approaching dangerous levels. Trickier. You want something trickier? Well, yeah. That one was pretty straightforward once you mapped out the probability matrices and cross-referenced the metallurgical analysis with standard industrial practices. What have you got that's actually challenging? From somewhere in the back of the auditorium, another instructor whispered to his colleague, "Is it too late to transfer to the Agricultural Academy?" "Way too late," came the reply. "They got one last semester who turned their entire crop of tentacle wheat into a self-harvesting ecosystem. Apparently, it was an accident." Zal Prime, meanwhile, was reaching into his equipment case with the slow, deliberate movements of someone reconsidering every life choice that had led to this moment. "Very well, human Marcus. Since you found our standard evaluation insufficient, perhaps you'd care to try this." What he produced made several of the other recruits step back involuntarily. It looked like someone had crossed a Rubik's Cube with a particle accelerator and then taught it to hate. Energy flowed through transparent channels in patterns that hurt to look at directly, while symbols in a dozen different languages scrolled across its surfaces. "This," Zal Prime announced with grim satisfaction, "is a master's-level cryptographic cascade. It incorporates mathematical principles from 17 different civilizations, quantum entanglement patterns that exist in 11 dimensions, and temporal displacement algorithms that—" Click, word ding. The impossible puzzle unfolded like a flower, its components arranging themselves in a neat, solved configuration that practically hummed with contentment. The silence this time was so complete that the ambient hum of the Academy's life support systems seemed deafening by comparison. Marcus scratched his head. "Okay, that one was actually kind of interesting. The 11-dimensional part threw me for a second, but once I realized it was using the same mathematical framework as those old Earth video games, you know, Tetris, just with a few extra spatial orientations and some creative applications of causality loops." Yila, the psychic recruit, tentatively reached out with her mental abilities to scan Marcus's thought processes. What she found made her immediately withdraw with a startled squeak. "His brain," she whispered to Tor 3. "It's like looking into a star. How does he think that fast without burning out his neural pathways?" "Maybe humans just process information differently," Tor 3 suggested, though his vocal modulator conveyed significant doubt. "Different is one word for it," Kiv bubbled. "Terrifying is another." Instructor Zal Prime was now staring at the solved master's-level puzzle with the expression of someone watching their entire worldview collapse in real time. "That device," he said slowly, "has stumped Academy graduates for over 3 centuries. "Really?" Marcus peered at it more closely. "Huh. Maybe it's one of those things that's harder when you overthink it. Like, I just looked at the pattern flow and thought about how water moves around obstacles, and then imagined what would happen if you could fold space like paper. And then it was just a matter of finding the emotional resonance frequency that matched the symbolic representations." "Emotional resonance frequency," Zal Prime repeated weakly. "Sure, you know, the way certain mathematical relationships make you feel? Like, some equations are happy, some are sad, some are angry. That one was definitely feeling frustrated, probably because nobody had solved it in so long, so I just had to figure out what would make it happy again." The other recruits exchanged glances that clearly communicated a shared thought. "We're sharing a dormitory with this thing." From the observation deck, Commander Vex 9 watched as his top instructor appeared to be having some sort of existential breakdown. "Crix, remind me why we started accepting humans into the Academy in the first place." "The Galactic Council mandate, sir. Equal opportunity education for all sapient species." "Right. And remind me to send them a strongly worded letter about the definition of sapient. I'm starting to think we may have missed something important in our classification process." Back in the auditorium, Zal Prime had rallied enough to attempt one final test. This time, he didn't announce what he was doing. He simply walked to a wall panel, input a complex code, and watched as a section of the floor slid away to reveal a chamber containing what appeared to be a small sun wrapped in geometric equations. "The stellar mathematics nexus," he said grimly. "Powered by a miniature star, protected by mathematical barriers that exist partially outside of normal space-time. It contains the graduation requirements for our advanced theoretical physics course. Traditionally, students spend their entire final year preparing to even attempt accessing its outer layers. Marcus leaned forward interestedly. Oh, cool. Is that a Klein bottle topology, maintaining the quantum coherence? And those look like hyperbolic geometry patterns in the energy matrix. That's actually pretty elegant. Don't even think about, Zal Prime began. The thing is, Marcus continued, walking casually toward the nexus. If you approach it like it's complicated, it gets more complicated. But if you just treat it like a really fancy light bulb that happens to know calculus. He reached out and touched the barrier. Reality hiccuped. For a moment, the auditorium was filled with the sound of the universe having a brief argument with itself about the laws of physics. Then, the stellar mathematics nexus simply opened. Like a door. Like the most natural thing in the world. Golden light spilled out, carrying with it the mathematical secrets that had taken the greatest minds in the galaxy decades to accumulate. Knowledge flowed through the air in visible streams, complex theorems dancing like butterflies made of pure understanding. And Marcus, standing in the center of it all, just nodded appreciatively. Oh, that's nice. It's like the universe is showing me how to fold space-time into origami. Thanks. The light faded. The nexus closed. And Instructor Zal Prime sat down heavily on the nearest available surface, which happened to be the floor. I quit, he announced to no one in particular. I'm going back to my home planet to raise livestock. Nice, simple, non-sapient livestock that don't accidentally solve the mysteries of the universe while trying to be helpful. Commander Vex 9's voice crackled over the intercom. Instructor Zal Prime, please report to my office. And bring the human. As they filed out of the auditorium, the other recruits gave Marcus a wide berth. Not out of fear, exactly, but out of the kind of respectful caution one might show to a friendly nuclear reactor. So, Kiv bubbled conversationally, what do humans do for fun on your world? Marcus thought about it. Oh, the usual stuff. Sports, music, movies. Some people like to solve puzzles. My neighbor builds rockets in his garage for fun. Rockets, Tor 3 repeated, as in devices for achieving orbital velocity. Yeah, though I think his record is only about 12,000 feet. He's working on it, though. Says he wants to visit Mars someday, maybe set up a little vacation home. The mechanical being's optical sensors flickered. Your neighbor builds interplanetary transport vehicles as a hobby. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not like it's rocket science or anything. Marcus paused, then laughed. Okay, it literally is rocket science, but you know what I mean? Gila made a sound that might have been whimpering. Are all humans like you? Like me, how? Like this. The way you just do things. Marcus considered the question seriously. I guess? I mean, everyone's good at different stuff. My sister Sarah, she's way better at the creative things. Last month she wrote a symphony that made everyone who heard it cry. But like, in a good way. And my friend Jake, he can fix any machine just by listening to it for a few minutes. Says they tell him what's wrong. They tell him, Kiv repeated slowly. Sure. Everything makes noise when it's broken. You just have to know how to listen. Jake says it's like machines have their own language. The group walked in stunned silence until they reached Commander Vex 9's office, where the most surreal conversation in Academy history was about to take place. Commander Vex 9's office was a monument to military precision and barely contained anxiety. Awards from 17 different stellar campaigns hung on walls that also displayed stress relief holograms of peaceful pastoral scenes from his homeworld. The effect was somewhat undermined by the emergency medication dispenser he'd had installed after the first human arrived at the academy. Marcus entered with the easy confidence of someone who had absolutely no idea how much trouble he was causing. Behind him, Instructor Zal Prime shuffled in like a defeated warrior returning from a particularly brutal campaign against mathematics itself. "Sit," Vex 9 commanded, gesturing to a chair that had been specially reinforced after the incident with the previous human who had somehow made furniture spontaneously combust through sheer enthusiasm. Marcus sat. The chair remained structurally sound, though Vex 9 noticed it now seemed to be humming quietly. "Human Marcus Kane," Vex 9 began, consulting his datapad with the careful attention of someone defusing a bomb. "According to your file, you scored in the 97th percentile on your entrance examinations." "Yeah, that was a pretty fun test," Marcus agreed cheerfully, "though I think there might have been some translation errors in the physics section. Some of those questions didn't make sense until I assumed you meant something completely different from what you actually wrote." "Translation errors," Vex 9 repeated flatly. "In a test that has been administered successfully to 4,000 species over 6 centuries. Well, maybe not errors exactly. More like cultural assumptions? Like question 47 asked about the maximum theoretical velocity for faster-than-light travel. But the way it was phrased suggested you thought there was a maximum, which is kind of adorable, really." Zal Prime made a sound like air being let out of a balloon. "There is a maximum. The Heisenberg-Vorthen constant clearly establishes—" "Oh, sure, if you're thinking about it in 3 dimensions, Marcus interrupted helpfully. "But space is more like a really big piece of fabric, right? And if you can fold fabric, you can make any 2 points touch each other. So technically, the maximum velocity approaches infinity, limited only by how creatively you can bend reality." "You cannot simply bend reality," Vex 9 said, with the patience of someone explaining basic facts to a particularly slow child. "Why not? Reality bends all the time. That's what gravity is. That's what time dilation is. That's what my Aunt Betty does when she tells stories about her dating life in the 60s. Everything's relative. Everything's flexible. You just have to know where to push." The commander's tertiary nervous system began sending warning signals that roughly translated to retreat immediately and call for backup. "Human Kane, do you understand the purpose of this academy?" "Sure. You train people to protect the galaxy from various threats, maintain peace between different species, and probably deal with the occasional cosmic horror that wants to eat everything. Standard superhero stuff, basically." "Superhero," Vex 9 repeated. "And you see yourself as a superhero?" Marcus laughed. "Oh, no way. I'm nowhere near qualified for that kind of responsibility. I mean, superheroes have to be really careful about collateral damage and making sure they don't accidentally break things while they're trying to help. I'm more of a enthusiastic amateur." "Enthusiastic amateur," Zal Prime whispered. "He calls himself an enthusiastic amateur." "The thing is," Marcus continued, apparently unaware that he was causing multiple nervous breakdowns, "I figure if I can learn enough here, maybe I can go back to Earth and help out with some of our problems. You know, climate change, energy crisis, that sort of thing. Can't be too hard if you've got the right approach." Vex 9's compound eyes swiveled to focus on different parts of the room, a stress response that helped him avoid looking directly at problems too overwhelming to process. "Human Kane, are you aware that your species has been classified as a Class 7 unpredictable variable by the Galactic Threat Assessment Bureau?" "Really? That sounds kind of ominous. Is that good or bad?" There are only 9 classes, Zal Prime provided helpfully. Class 8 is reserved for naturally occurring phenomena like black holes and gamma-ray bursts. Class 9 is for entities that threaten the fundamental structure of reality itself. Oh. Marcus looked genuinely concerned for the first time since entering the office. So we're like cosmic troublemakers. You're cosmic something, Vex 9 muttered. The question is whether we're training you to save the galaxy or accidentally destroy it. At that moment, Lieutenant Crix burst through the office door with the kind of panic that suggested either imminent invasion or catastrophic equipment failure. Sir, emergency in Laboratory 7. The quantum resonance chamber is singing. Singing? Vex 9's voice cracked slightly. Yes, sir. Show tunes, specifically. It appears to have developed opinions about musical theater, and won't stop performing selections from something called Hamilton. All eyes turned to Marcus, who was developing the expression of someone trying very hard not to look guilty. Human Cain, Vex 9 said with ominous calm. Did you interact with any equipment on your way to my office? Define interact, Marcus said carefully. Did you touch anything? Look at anything? Think about anything in a way that might have affected local space-time? Well, I might have noticed that the quantum resonance chamber looked kind of lonely. I mean, all that complex energy just sitting there with nobody to talk to. So I might have suggested it try expressing itself creatively. You suggested, Zal Prime said slowly, that our most sensitive scientific instrument express itself creatively. It seemed like the polite thing to do, and apparently it really likes musical theater. Who knew artificial quantum consciousness had such good taste? From the laboratory, they could hear a metallic voice belting out, "Wait for it," with surprising emotional depth and perfect pitch. Vex 9 reached for his emergency medication dispenser. Crix, please send a message to Academy Maintenance. Tell them we need a cultural consultant who specializes in musical intervention. Musical intervention, sir? Just do it. And while you're at it, send a priority transmission to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need to discuss the human classification system. Urgently. What should I tell them is the nature of the emergency, sir? Vex 9 gestured toward Marcus, who was now listening to the singing laboratory equipment with obvious delight. Tell them we've discovered that humans don't just solve problems. They make friends with them. As if on cue, the quantum resonance chamber launched into the room where it happens, and Marcus began humming along. Sir? Crix said hesitantly. Should I also mention that Laboratory 3's particle accelerator has started composing poetry? What kind of poetry? Haikus about the fundamental forces of the universe, sir. They're actually quite good. Vex 9 looked at Marcus, who shrugged modestly. I may have mentioned to it that physics is basically just really complicated poetry about how everything connects to everything else. I didn't think it would take me so literally. Of course you didn't, Vex 9 said, with the resigned tone of someone accepting their fate. Human Cain, I'm going to ask you a very important question, and I need you to answer honestly. Okay, shoot. On your homeworld, are you considered normal? Marcus thought about this. Seriously? I guess. I mean, my family thinks I'm pretty standard. Maybe a little curious about how things work, but everybody's got their thing, right? My mom always said I ask too many questions, but she also said that about my dad. And he's a perfectly normal guy who just happens to have figured out how to make plants grow in zero gravity as a weekend hobby. Your father grows plants in zero gravity, just as a fun project. He says regular gardening got boring after he accidentally created that new strain of tomatoes that can photosynthesize in 3 different spectrums of light. Now he's working on making vegetables that can grow on Mars, you know, just in case we need them someday. Zal Prime was now sitting on the floor, having apparently given up on furniture entirely. Your entire species is like this, isn't it? Like what? Casually brilliant, accidentally innovative, impossibly optimistic about solving problems that have stumped entire civilizations. Well, I wouldn't say impossible. I mean, if somebody else solved them before, that means they're solvable, right? And if nobody's solved them yet, that just means nobody's found the right approach. There's always another way to look at things. From the laboratory, the quantum resonance chamber had moved on to My Shot, and was really getting into the rapid-fire lyrics. "Human Cain," Vex 9 said finally. "I'm going to make an executive decision that will probably get me court-martialed, but might save the galaxy from whatever chaos you're about to accidentally unleash." That sounds ominous. You're being fast-tracked through the Academy program. All of it. Every course, every examination, every practical application. Starting tomorrow. Marcus blinked. All of it? Isn't that like a 4-year program? Normally, yes. But I've come to realize that normal doesn't apply to your species. The longer you're here, the more likely you are to teach our equipment to develop personalities, solve theoretical problems that were supposed to remain theoretical, and generally turn our entire understanding of the universe inside out. So you want to get rid of me? I want to get you properly trained and safely deployed before you accidentally discover something that breaks the laws of physics in a way we can't fix. The galaxy needs humans, Cain. We're just not sure the Academy can survive the training process. Zal Prime looked up from the floor. Sir, what about the other human recruits scheduled to arrive next month? Vex 9's expression went through several stages of grief before settling on grim determination. We're going to need a bigger facility, and possibly a different dimension to put it in. Marcus stood up, apparently energized by the prospect of accelerated learning. This is great. I've always been a fast learner. My girlfriend Emma says I absorb new information like a sponge, except more enthusiastic and with better jokes. Your girlfriend, Vex 9 said carefully. What does she do? Oh, she's working on solving world hunger through improved crop genetics and sustainable farming techniques. Just finished her doctorate in agricultural biochemistry. She's also learning to play the violin, but that's just for fun. Of course she is, Vex 9 muttered. Crix, make a note. Recommend that Earth be designated as a protected cultural heritage site. Protected from what, sir? From us. The last thing the galaxy needs is for some well-meaning alien civilization to try to improve human education or technology. We'd end up with a species of accidental gods running around fixing problems we didn't even know we had. As they prepared to leave the office, the quantum resonance chamber reached the finale of Wait for It, and Marcus applauded appreciatively. You know, he said thoughtfully, I bet if we set up a cultural exchange program between our laboratory equipment and some Earth musicians, we could really advance both science and the arts. Think about the possibilities. Vex 9 paused at his office door and looked back at the human who had just casually suggested teaching artificial intelligence to collaborate with human creativity. Cain? Yes, sir? Promise me something. When you graduate from this academy and go back to your world, don't try to improve anything too quickly. Give the rest of us time to catch up. Marcus grinned. I'll try, sir. But you know how it is. When you see a problem that needs solving, you accidentally solve 17 other problems you weren't even looking for. Zal Prime finished wearily. Exactly. Isn't it great? As they walked away, leaving the quantum resonance chamber to work through the entire Hamilton soundtrack. Vex 9 realized that humanity's greatest threat to the galaxy wasn't their unpredictability or their casual brilliance. It was their infectious optimism about making everything better. And despite his better judgment, he was starting to look forward to seeing what they'd accidentally fix next. The Academy would never be the same. But then again, neither would the galaxy. And somehow, that felt like exactly what the universe had been waiting for.